Hello friends, my name is Ruby Wire, and yes, it is actually me sweating under this helmet. I'm going to keep it on for the video because my face is very clearly red and sweaty, so we're keeping it on. But welcome to vlog number 2. I did one of these a way while back, long time back, and I talked about just kind of life and balance and everything. Today, I kind of want to talk about my hobbies, and of course, gaming is a big one on the channel. Drinking cocktails and reviewing them, another big one on the channel. But none gives me more pleasure than this one. This is probably my favorite thing in the world to do. At least one of them, top 3 for sure. Oh, it's so hot though. I know my outfit doesn't really match. It's not great, whatever. But this is typically what I wear when I ride. Jeans, I would recommend something armored. Boots, these are tennis shoes, but they're sturdier. They've got higher tops. Jacket, of course, an armored one would be a better one. Mine's just leather. And always wear a helmet. DOT approved at least. Now that that's out of the way. Oh, and gloves. Mine are armored. Now that's out of the way. I just want to talk about my bike, my baby, for a sec. Her name is Lucy, L-U-C-I. I actually bought her from a woman, and she'll remain anonymous for, being nice. But I bought her from a woman, and she had named it Lucy after the Peanuts character. And at the time, I had started watching the TV show Lucifer, and I'm like, ooh, name her Lucy like Lucifer. And that's what happened. I just changed the one letter and kept the name. A nice homage to Satan and the lady who sold me the bike. So it was cool. But this is a Honda Shadow, 2002, believe it or not. Most people don't believe it, but it's a 2002 Honda Shadow VLX Deluxe, I believe. Where's that hiding? VLX Deluxe. And I've had this bike for about a year. Actually, over a year. A little bit over a year. Probably closer to 14 or 15 months. I don't know if you can tell, but my goggles are fogging up because I'm sweating in a sweaty mess. And in my time riding, I have seen some crazy shit. And I have experienced some crazy shit. So, aside from the motorcycle reveal that I'm sure a few people wanted, but not everybody, I'm going to tell you a couple stories of my time riding on Lucy. Put that kickstand back up. I don't need that down. Well, I think the first story I ought to tell should be my first ride. The first time I ever rode this motorcycle, I didn't ride it when I bought it. We put it on a trailer and it took forever to get back, but I didn't ride it when we bought it. I did end up riding it a couple days later with my buddy, and we went out in the morning, no problems. I rode it, my first time ever on a motorcycle too. I rode it out on the streets and everything, and it was just a grand old time. It felt really good to ride, because I've always wanted to own a motorcycle. Ever since I was 7, and I played Pokemon Coliseum, which I have played on the channel. Go check that out. The main character had a hover cycle, and I've always wanted a motorcycle since. And then one of my favorite TV shows is Psych, and the main character rode a motorcycle. Daryl Dixon was always my favorite in The Walking Dead, and he rode a motorcycle. So a lot of people in games and TV and stuff that I looked up to, or I at least liked, rode motorcycles. So I had always wanted one. But the first day I rode it, the morning of, I had no problems. But I went out again later that night, and I decided to go on a busier road because I was 20 and I had a motorcycle, and I'm like, I'm invincible, not me. So I tried my luck, and I had no problems. No problems whatsoever. Up until I was going home. On my way home, I took a right turn, and it was getting kind of dark, and I wasn't allowed to ride in the dark because I was on my Temps. It was getting kind of dark, and I took a right turn onto a street, and I just dropped the bike right on me, and it hit the ground. Luckily, I was going pretty slow, so it didn't hit hard, but I scratched up my entire arm and my leg. That hurt like a bitch. I got up fine, though. Afterwards, I didn't have any pain when I got up, and I was scratched and I was bleeding, and I'm like, oh, no, I feel fine. Let's go home. And when I got home, Emerald Wire's wife actually cleaned my wound, and that's what hurt like a bitch. That was the worst part of it. Also, hold on. Let me see if we can get this crispy back crack. Oh, nice. But that's what hurt the most. But that was fine. Afterwards, I started learning to ride a little bit more and getting more comfortable, and I went for a ride out towards a route that I almost always ride. I still ride the route. And I, of course, as motorcycles do, I saw turtles, and I saved turtles from the road, which is just what we do. And I also saw, when I was riding with my buddy, a family of raccoons, like a mom and a bunch of babies, just playing in the street. So we just kind of stopped and watched them play in the street. We made sure they got out of the street all right. We weren't going to touch them. At the time, I didn't know about the dangers of touching raccoons, but I know now. I'm well aware of the dangers now. I've dealt with them. Story for a different time. But when I was on that route, actually, was the first time I ever had someone get aggressive at me. I was going 55 in a 55, doing the speed limit, enjoying my ride, just going to this dam that I would usually go to. It's cool. And I take a right-hand turn, and this truck just comes out of nowhere behind me, and he's laying on the horn, and I'm finally like, all right, this dude has a problem. So I turn left off the street. He slows down, and he screams, "You fucking idiot!" and just barrels off. No clue what I did to him. I was just going speed limit the whole time. No clue. I didn't do, like, my blinker wasn't on. I had no problems. I wasn't dragging. I don't know. He was just a dick, I guess. That was the first time someone had been aggressive towards me. And I had other issues, but I think the first time I nearly experienced death on my motorcycle, and I say first time because there's a few, but the first time was also on that route. Almost the entire way, it's a dashed yellow line, so you can pass if you need to, no problem, whatever. And I've passed cars on my motorcycle, it's been fine. But there are like 4 or 5 corners that are solid double yellows, because they're just blind corners. And the first corner I was taking on the route, it's like all just shrouded by woods and trees, and this dude tries to pass someone on this double yellow on this blind corner. I'm going 55. This dude has to be going at least 80 trying to pass this person. And when I say there was maybe a foot between me hitting this dude and this dude hitting me head on in the same lane, him going 85, me going 55, a foot might even be giving him some credit. This was the closest I've ever come to dying. Like, there have been a lot of times I got close to dying. That was the closest. That sucked. I pulled over after that, and I'm like, I was so pissed. I was ready to go flying after that guy and scream at him like, "What the fuck is your deal, dude? Why would you pass on a double yellow blind? Why?" I was so furious. But I almost died. I think I had the right to be mad. Especially since I was doing the speed limit. It was 55. Actually, I think it was 60. I think I was going under the speed limit. Dude was an idiot. But then I put the bike away for college a couple weeks after that. I finished my next semester of college, and I actually brought the bike back out for a little bit in the winter. And when I tell you that winter riding in Ohio sucks, it's the worst. I was only in residentials, going maybe 15 or 20. I had my windshield off because the windshield comes on and off on this, and I was freezing. I was freezing. My fingers were literally a different color because I wear the fingerless gloves. That way, if I pull off and I need to use direction or anything, I use fingerless gloves. And I was like, my fingers were purple and the rest of my hands were red. I was shivering. It was the worst idea I had ever had. But I love riding my motorcycle, so I didn't care much. After that ride, I didn't really ride for a while, because I went back to college again for the spring. I had come back once or twice and pulled it out and rode it and everything, but never anything really long or eventful. Oh, some dogs are barking. I hope you can't hear that, but I'll continue. The one event afterwards, this last summer actually, I had taken my bike to a mechanic to get a once over. Someone who was kind of training on motorcycles, so he was still learning. And I had talked about how my brake was squeaking. He's like, oh, it's probably just because it was sitting. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Damn, they're really barking. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So I start riding, and I'm, having no problems. But I decided to take a trip about 2.5 hours from home to visit my girlfriend. And on that trip, my rear brake failed. And I just rear-ended someone. But what had happened was I had a few courses of action to take. I had maybe a car length or two behind me. No, I had way more time than that. I was way behind them, going 35, and they're stopping to turn left. And I'm trying to slow down. I'm hitting on my brake, trying to slow down. Oh, getting over this. Yeah, I'm hitting on my brake, trying to slow down, and it's not working. And I'm like, oh shit. So I pull on my front brake, and it's working, but it's not working good enough, because by the time I realized that my rear brake wasn't working, and I pulled the front brake, I had maybe 2 car lengths between me and this car. And the car was in the lane, turning left. There was oncoming traffic that they were waiting for so they could turn left. And beside them was a telephone pole and some other pole. I don't know what the other pole was for. I don't remember. But I was either going into those poles, into oncoming traffic, or into the back of this car. And I was like, oh shit. So I managed to swerve and tip my bike into the side of their car. So I was on the double yellow and I hit them sideways. I would have liked to have gone just straight past them and passed on the left and just been an asshole who was just passing on the left like a dick. But they had literally started to turn as I was trying to pass them on the left and swerve out of the way. Because I would have swerved right and hit the poles and wrapped myself around poles, which would have sucked. But I had hit them. That's the only time I've been in an accident where I was driving. And oh, that sucked. Luckily, I didn't get hurt at all aside from a bruise on my leg. And I only had to get I had to replace my levers, I had to replace my passenger pegs, I had to rebend my brake, and I had to take off a wrap that was around my engine. But it only cost me $150 to fix the bike. I had no other problems, no mechanical issues. I went and I got the brakes fixed. That cost me like $30. But yeah, I mean, I've had no problems since. And I've been riding, like I said, I've been riding for a little over a year now. And the one accident was because of mechanical failure, which sucked. But it was just a small fender bender for them. For me, I had done a good deal of damage to the bike, but nobody was hurt, miraculously. Nobody got hurt, which is all I can ask for. But I wanted to make this vlog because I do love my motorcycle. And while I'm sure there are dozens of other stories, one more before I end. So I was riding with my buddy, the one who I almost always ride with. Actually, the only guy I've ever really ridden with. And we took this one road, and it turned into this road that was lifted 3 inches above the dirt that was on the side of the road. It had just been paved higher than the rest of the road. And when we took the turn, he was on a sports bike, and when he took the turn, he went over that and wound up in the dirt, just riding in the dirt, going straight. And I'm behind him oh shit, he's gonna fall. Oh shit. But he's wobbling through the dirt, and there's dirt and rocks and dust flying up at me, and I'm like, dude, get back on the road. Come on, don't fall, slow down, whatever, just don't fall. And he gets to a point where the road dips, and he swerves back on, and he turns around and looks at me, and he goes, ooh. I was terrified for him. I really thought that was good. I really thought he was gonna fall. That would have sucked. Oh, okay, I know that was the last story, but the one thing I want to mention before I end it, I had taken my motorcycle temps test the summer I got my bike. Right before I got it, I got my temps test. Or I did my temps and got them. Doggies. Yeah, like I was saying, I did my temps test. I did that, no problem, whatever. But when I took my actual motorcycle test, I don't know why, I struggled with the cones, because there's cones that you have to weave through, and you can get 10 points taken off your test. You get 5 points off automatically if you put your foot down at any point during the test, and if you don't complete a portion of the test, you get 5 points off. That's the most you can lose. If you lose one more point than that, you fail. And I'm literally taking this test the day before I go back to college for the fall. So I do my swerving, and I get the first 2 cones, but I overshoot the last cone, and I slam my foot down, and I stop, and I'm like, I just lost all the points I could lose. And my buddy was taking the test with me, and we're just like, shit. So I finished taking the rest of the test, just on edge, and I get everything else perfect. Those cones I just didn't get. I lost all my points there, and I got everything else right. But after that, there was someone else who was taking the test, older gentleman. He had a big Harley, but he hadn't been riding for more than I think a month, and he went to take the test. He did the cones, he did the tight corner, but when he went to do the accelerate and slam on the brakes, he slammed and he locked his rear brake, and he dropped this like 750-pound bike right on him, and this dude was probably 60. He was lucky because the engine was longer than his leg went out, and his saddlebags were also longer, so it caught between his engine and his saddlebag, so he didn't crush his leg, which was super fortunate. But after he dropped it, a bunch of the guys taking the test ran over and helped pick that bike up, because that was a big bike. So we all lifted it up, and this dude gets up and he looks at the test, I guess proctor, instructor, whatever, and he says, "Does this mean I failed?" But legit, he's like, "Does this mean I failed?" We're like, "Dude, is that what you're worried about? You just dropped a 750-pound bike on you, maybe more." Jesus. But he was fine. He was upset he failed his test, but he was fine otherwise. But while I'm sure I have a dozen other stories about riding my motorcycle, none that are springing to mind aside from the occasional someone pulls out in front of me, I'm slamming on the brakes, revving, horn, everything, you know the works. I do want to, at some point, do a motorcycle ride-along. I just need to get the equipment for it, and when I do, I will definitely do that. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching this video. If you liked it, go check out my first vlog, because I do want to do more vlogs. I just don't really have a lot of content to use for them. But thank you everybody so much for watching this video, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace.